Want help to grow your business? Download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.
G'day there, Peter Moriarty here, back for another episode of Business in the Cloud. And in this episode, we're going to be covering how you can stop website hackers and protect your customers by increasing the security of your website. We've got some great tips coming up. Keep in mind, this is going to be a highly practical and a little bit technical of an episode, so make sure you've got a pen and paper, you're going to take some good notes, and we're going to get right into it. Now, this is kind of the techie side of protecting your website. We're going to be going through how you can make sure that your website doesn't get hacked, how you can make sure it doesn't go down so no one can deface it or anything like that, and we're going to go through some very specific strategies on how you can help increase the uptime of your site. Now, if you're a small business owner and you're using something like, for example, WordPress for your website, well, this is going to be super, super relevant for you because we're going to go through some plugins, some application firewalls, all kind of cool stuff to help you get a bit smarter with how you're managing your site. So let's start with the problem. We've got a website, we're a small business owner, we want to promote our services and promote our products, but how do we make sure that's protected? How do we make sure that nothing goes wrong, no one is able to hack into there? Now, there's not only the issue of branding and reputation for your business. If something were to go wrong with your website, and if it was, hacked or defaced or anything were to go wrong there, but there's also the legal requirements that you actually protect your customers' data, especially if you're storing personal information for your customers or maybe even payment information in the form of credit cards. There's heavy penalties if you actually breach somebody's privacy by not doing enough to protect their data. So it's very, very important that you listen up if you're storing any of that information. And just for anyone running a website, you want to make sure that nothing goes wrong. So what are we going to cover in this episode? Well, first up, we're going to start off with how to monitor your site health and uptime. How to make sure your site's actually there, it's online, and it's ready for your customers to visit as they visit your site and get engaged with your products and services. Next up, how website hacking actually happens. What's the technical reasons? What actually happens when a website gets hacked, and what might the results be? Next up, how you can secure your emails from your website. So many websites are vulnerable with the emails that they send. Websites can generate emails on your behalf as well. So you want to make sure that you've got a good, solid email setup, which is a low risk of being hacked or compromised. Next is how to protect your website with a web application firewall. Now, this is kind of like antivirus for your website, but what this does is it blocks the nasties from getting in there, well, some of them at least. Next up is protecting your site with security plugins. So I'm going to go through some of my favorite security plugins for WordPress to show you how you can protect your site. And next is monitoring your website reputation. And this is how the internet, and especially important, how Google sees your website online. So let's get started. We're going to dive right into the content and get into the good stuff. So first of all, we're going to talk about how to monitor your site health and uptime. And there's a few different services that you can use for this. Now, this is important as a foundational measure with you increasing the security of your business website, because if your website is offline or it's down and you don't know, well, that could be affecting your sales, could be affecting your brand reputation. You might have people going to your website and not being able to contact you if they're interested in purchasing your services. Now, the reason that we want to monitor our site's uptime is that not all web hosts are necessarily going to let us know when there's something wrong with our website. This is something that you should have the responsibility for, or the IT consultant or IT person in your business should at least be monitoring. You need to know that if your site isn't up right now, or if it isn't working, if it isn't displaying your pages properly, then you get alerted straight away and you can do something about it. There's nothing worse than the embarrassment of having a customer call you up and say, hey, you know what, I'm trying to do business with you, but I just can't access your website. I can't access the pages. And just imagine the brand reputation damage that's going to do if a customer's not having a great experience on your website. Maybe you're in the kind of business where if your website was down, well, customers couldn't even do business with you. If they're buying products online, or for example, if they need to find you on your website and then give you a call from there, well, that might not work either. So I'm going to go through a couple of tools which are going to help you to monitor your site health and also your site uptime to make sure that you're in control and you know exactly what's going on. So the first one that we'll talk about is Google Analytics. You probably know of that one already. Second one up is a monitoring site called Pingdom. And then thirdly, we're going to do a quick demo of one called Uptime Robot. Let's get into it. First up, Google Analytics. Now, this is super important. You've probably already got Google Analytics set up for your domain already. Now, for the most part, this tracks the number of users that are visiting your site, the amount of time that they spend accessing your site, and it also shows you, what pages people are browsing through, where they're entering and exiting the site. Now, you might be thinking, well, Pete, isn't that for marketing purposes? How are we going to use that in a security context? Well, Google has a great feature, and what that feature is called is live data. Now, when you go into your live data of your Google Analytics, what that allows you to do is see in real time how many visitors are currently visiting your website. Now, if someone's trying to hack into your website or trying to access it, and they're using what's called a brute force method, well, then Google Analytics can give you some clues as to what's going on there. If you can see the number of sessions skyrocketing, or maybe heaps of people hitting your homepage and then disappearing again, well, it's quite possible it's an automated bot of some sort, or someone trying to get access to the website there. So Google Analytics can give us some kind of guiding metrics on what's happening there. Google Analytics will also let us know what are the natural ebbs and flows of our business, and each day, if you log in, check your analytics, or you allow analytics to send you a report, well, you can report if perhaps your visitor numbers are down dramatically. Well, there might be a problem with your website reputation. You might have dropped in search rankings. If someone's injected malicious code onto your website, well, then Google's going to alert you through Google Analytics and Google Webmaster Tools that there's a problem with your site. Now, Google Analytics and its bigger brother, Google Webmaster Tools, are both free tools that you can add to your website. And if you haven't already added them, then chat to your web consultant who can help you get those set up. Next up is Pingdom, and this is not only a great way to know whether or not your site is online or offline, but it also does in-depth analysis of the experience that your customers are having on your site. So you can go ahead and sign up for a free trial account. Pingdom is a commercial product, so you can decide whether or not you want to pay for it at the end of the trial. But what Pingdom does is it alerts you to the user experience of using your site. So if someone's waiting a long time for pages to load, if perhaps there's a problem somewhere on the site and there's broken links, if there's been any damage done by a security vulnerability of some sort on your site, well, then Pingdom is going to help you pick that up and send you alerts to that effect if the user's having a poor experience on your site. Now, the third one, and this is the one that I definitely want you to implement today because it's one that you can easily do yourself, is Uptime Robot. And what Uptime Robot does is it just simply checks whether or not your site is up or down. And the great thing about this is it means that if you think there may be a problem with your website, well, you can just check Uptime Robot and it's going to tell you whether or not the site is actually up or down. Sometimes you might have a problem with your computer or your internet connection. You might not really be sure if the problem's actually on your website. Well, what Uptime Robot does is every couple of minutes it actually checks to see whether or not your website is up and accessible by the internet. And if there's an outage, well, it can let you know via email, it can send you a text message, it can even notify a Slack channel if you happen to be using Slack for your business as well. So Uptime Robot is a free service that you can go ahead and register for, punch in your website, and it's going to set up nice, easy alerts for you. Now, the great thing about this is if you don't know that your website has gone down and you're going about your standard business, well, this is going to alert you to any problems. Could be an issue with your host. It might be a problem with your actual individual website. But the important thing is that you know what's going on. We're going to do a quick demo now and set up Uptime Robot to show you how easy it is to start monitoring your website. So once I've made an account and logged in, I'm brought to this screen for Uptime Robot and I can start to configure my first check. Now you'll see here up on the top left-hand corner, I can add a new monitor, and it's as simple as choosing what kind of monitor I'd like to do. Now we'll keep it nice and simple. We'll do an HTTP monitor, which effectively means that we're monitoring our main homepage. So let's go ahead and monitor the IT Genius homepage. And we pop in the URL. There we go, and I can check the monitoring interval. Now, on the free plan, I can do as often as every 5 minutes. There are other commercial plans which allow you to have other notification frequencies, and for now, I'm just going to choose for it to alert my email address. And there we go, that's all I need to do. I can click the close button now, and it's automatically going to start monitoring. Now, it might take a little bit of time before it does its first monitor, and then it's going to start giving us data and analytics on this particular website. Now, we're going to know pretty much instantly if there's a problem with our site, and it means that we can take a look into it and start working on a resolution straight away. The great thing about this is it means that you don't have to rely on customers or your staff being the ones that are monitoring whether or not your website is actually working. So make sure you write that one down and you go ahead and get that implemented so you know whether or not your site's actually up and functioning for you. So next up, let's talk about how website hacking actually happens. There's a few different kind of methods for website hacking to actually happen, and I'm going to run through each one and what they actually mean, how they differ. You can see here there's 3 key types of ways for a website to be hacked or become vulnerable. And the first one is code vulnerabilities. Now, what I mean by that is the way that your website was designed or built. Sometimes, unfortunately, when a web developer builds a website, well, there's kind of like backdoors left open in the software. And what that means is that your site may be able to be compromised either by somebody in a targeted and coordinated attack, or maybe by a little app or a script that someone's created to trawl the web and attempt to exploit those vulnerabilities in websites. Now, there's obviously common vulnerabilities that make it very easy for someone to access your site, and there are less common vulnerabilities which are, more for targeted and coordinated attacks. We want to make sure that you as a small business owner have got the basics down, and the best way to make sure that you're not susceptible to common vulnerabilities, well, is to keep your website nicely updated. So I'm going to show you how to go through and update your website. If you're using a WordPress website, which is what we're going to use for our recommendation here and what we're going to use for our demo, then you just want to make sure that you're keeping things nicely updated. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in to my WordPress website here. You can see I'm on my dashboard, and I've got a number of updates that actually need to be completed here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the Updates button here, and it's going to take me to my Updates menu for my site. Here we go. Now you can see I've got a number of updates that are required. I've got 2 plugins that are yet to be updated, and I've also got a theme that needs to be updated as well. Now it's important before you go ahead and click the update button that you make sure that you've got a backup of the site just in case anything goes wrong. You want to be sure that you can actually roll back to that backup just in case you need to be able to undo the changes that you've made with the updates. So check in with your website host, just make sure they're running at least daily backups of your website so you can roll back to any issues. But here we go, let's go ahead and run these updates and get...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download BRiN, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit BRiN.ai or search the App Store today.